Welcome to this week's edition of Baseball Weekend Journal. I'm your host, Paul Shivari. This week, I continue to follow the status of remaining free agents and which players signed with Major League teams. I'll preview the National League East and talk about the new rules implemented in Major League Baseball for the upcoming season. All that and more on the Baseball Weekend Journal for the week of February 28th, 2016. Spring training has finally arrived as all teams have officially opened camp. While some free agents are still trying to work out deals to find permanent homes in 2016, many of those free agents managed to ink new deals last week. Yovani Gallardo and Dexter Fowler finally have contracts, but Ian Desmond remains the only free agent with a draft pick attached to him without a home at the moment. Gallardo and the Baltimore Orioles initially agreed on a 3-year deal, but restructured the deal into a 2-year deal worth $22 million. With the signing, the Orioles give up the 14th overall pick in this June's amateur draft. Gallardo is expected to be the number 1 starter on the Orioles staff and fills the void left by the departure of Wei-Yin Chen. One team that stayed busy this week and provided even more depth to an already stacked lineup were the Chicago Cubs, who brought back Dexter Fowler on a 1-year deal and signed veterans Shane Victorino and Manny Parra to minor league contracts with invitations to spring training. I'll get back to Fowler in just a moment. The Cubs also made a trade with the Oakland Athletics. The two teams have connected on trades in recent years. This time around, the Cubs sent outfielder Chris Coghlan to Oakland for relief pitcher Aaron Brooks. Coghlan spent 2015 setting career highs in games played, home runs, and stolen bases. He played the corner, infield, and outfield spots, as well as second base. He was the 2009 National League Rookie of the Year with the Florida Marlins and will turn 31 this season. Coghlan projects to be a backup and will give the A's a legitimate left-handed bat off the bench. Aaron Brooks exceeded his rookie limits last season, splitting his year with the Kansas City Royals and Athletics. He was sent to Oakland in the trade that brought utility man Ben Zobrist to the Kansas City Royals near the trade deadline. Coincidentally, Brooks is now a teammate with Zobrist, who signed with the Cubs in the offseason. Brooks projects to start his season in Triple-A with the Cubs affiliate in Iowa. He will provide the Cubs with a Major League-ready option in a bullpen that will try to improve from last year's strong showing with youth and power. Back to Dexter Fowler. Fowler had a great season with the Cubs in 2015. He was acquired by the Cubs in a trade that sent third baseman Luis Valbuena to the Houston Astros. Fowler primarily batted leadoff for the Cubs, having one of his better seasons. He will turn 30 next month and will most likely retain his spot as starting center fielder and leadoff man, though he now has Jason Hayward to push him in friendly competition. Earlier in the week, reports have Fowler agreeing to a 3-year deal with the Baltimore Orioles, so it appeared as a surprise when it was officially announced that Fowler was coming back to the Cubs. Fowler's agent, Casey Close, issued a statement on Thursday condemning the Orioles and the media for their actions regarding the announcement of Fowler's alleged agreement to play for Baltimore. It was rumored that while reports surfaced of Fowler's intention to play for the Baltimore Orioles, Close had to reassure Theo Epstein, the Cubs' president of baseball operations, that they still had a deal in place. This has been one of the most bizarre stories from the free agent period this offseason. Fowler was one of the handful of free agents who had a draft pick tied to him. The Cubs would have gained a late-round second pick had Fowler signed elsewhere, but now forfeit that pick. Fowler's new deal allows the Cubs to gain a late first-round pick after the season if Fowler signs elsewhere. With all of these offseason moves and the momentum from last season's overachievement, the Cubs are primed to be contenders coming out of the National League. Other veterans signed minor league deals this week in the hopes of gaining positions on major league benches or perhaps starting roles. Some of these veterans include Jimmy Rollins, who will compete for the starting shortstop role for the Chicago White Sox against Tyler Saladino, who played mostly third base last season in Chicago. The Texas Rangers brought back outfielder Drew Stubbs, who will provide depth since Josh Hamilton will not be ready in time to start the regular season with an injury to his left knee. In addition to Stubbs, the Rangers added starting pitcher Jeremy Guthrie, who will compete for a spot in an already deep rotation that awaits the return of All-Star Yu Darvish, who is slated to return by May or June. I mentioned earlier that Ian Desmond is still without a team for the 2016 season. As of right now, the Texas Rangers are interested in the infielder, but would like to convert him to an outfield spot, which provides an interesting turn of events for Desmond's career. The Cleveland Indians signed aging veteran infielder Juan Uribe and outfielder Will Venable. Both players will struggle to put up big numbers, but will provide the type of leadership that could encourage a club such as the Indians to take the next step and become division leaders. Matt Joyce will be trying to fight for a spot in a crowded and talented Pittsburgh Pirates outfield, but my guess is that he is on the ropes for any hope of sustaining a major league career. Meanwhile, Jeff Francoeur has a chance to find a spot in the Atlanta Braves outfield coming off the bench. The Braves already have a few older veterans in Nick Markakis and Nick Swisher to go with the new addition of Francoeur. The Los Angeles Dodgers finalized their 6-year deal with Cuban pitcher Yasiel Sierra. The 24-year-old righty is expected to start the season in the minors, but has potential to be in the Dodgers bullpen by season end. Another Dodgers prospect, pitcher Frankie Montas, who was acquired in a 3-way trade from the Chicago White Sox, was placed on the 60-day disabled list while he recovers from rib removal surgery. Currently, there is no timetable for Montas' return. I'll keep following the transactions in Major League Baseball as the season progresses. Maybe next week we'll be talking about where Ian Desmond and Pedro Alvarez plan to be for the upcoming season. This week, Major League Baseball announced changes in the rulebook for slides and pace of play. After a collision in the postseason involving Dodgers' Chase Utley and New York Mets' Ruben Tejada that knocked Tejada out of the game with a broken leg, the league decided to adjust the rules regarding changing direction of a slide to purposely affect a position player's throw. While players are still allowed to collide as a consequence of an otherwise permissible slide, runners are no longer allowed to roll block or change directions while approaching a base. Umpires have the right to review slides with instant replay and can rule both the batter and the runner out if they feel the collision was intentional to disrupt the throw and not to reach the base safely. Ruling both runners out would essentially keep the double play intact by interference. It's a big step for the league to maintain player safety without having to sacrifice an exciting part of the game. Other rule changes include a 30-second time limit for manager or coach's visits to the mound. I personally don't think this will be enforced in the playoffs, but I do think this will move things along during the season and will avoid teams stalling to warm up pitchers in the bullpen. Another change to the pace of the game has the amount of time between innings reduced to 20 seconds, making local broadcasts 2 minutes and 5 seconds in between innings, and national broadcasts 2 minutes and 25 seconds. While I don't mind the length of the game, I do support changes to move the game along during the regular season. Each week I will be previewing a division in the majors and how each team will perform. This week, I start with the National League East. Last season, the New York Mets were able to take advantage of an off year by the Washington Nationals and win the division. The Nationals fired their manager Matt Williams 1 year after he was named the league's manager of the year. The Nats hired veteran skipper Dusty Baker, who has previously led the San Francisco Giants to a pennant in 2002, and a division championship with the Chicago Cubs before heading to the Cincinnati Reds, where he won 2 division championships. He should provide stability to a clubhouse that was in disarray at the end of last season. The Nats also boast the reigning league MVP, Bryce Harper, who had a physical altercation with closer Jonathan Papelbon in a late-season game. Papelbon apologized for the incident earlier this week, and it appears the team is ready to move on from the incident. The team lost Ian Desmond to free agency, but gained Daniel Murphy in his place. Murphy was a standout with the division rival New York Mets en route to a league championship. There will be an interesting battle for the starting shortstop position amongst newly acquired Stephen Drew, Trey Turner, and Danny Espinoza. The starting rotation lost Jordan Zimmerman and Doug Fister, but still is anchored by Max Scherzer, who pitched 2 no-hitters last season. The bullpen has improved the additions of Yusmeiro Petit, Oliver Perez, Trevor Gott, and Sean Kelly. Despite the departure of Drew Storen, trading Storen did give them a leadoff hitter in Ben Revere. I think the Nationals are the best bet to win the division, but they will be given trouble by the defending league champion Mets and the powerful and still unknown Miami Marlins. The Miami Marlins are a tough team to figure out. Though they have arguably the greatest power hitter in the league right now in Giancarlo Stanton, he struggles to stay healthy. Jose Fernandez still has yet to log an entire season since his impressive rookie season in 2013. He missed significant time in 2014 and 2015 recovering from Tommy John surgery, but bounced back late last season. He will anchor a rotation that added Wei-Yun Chen. Tom Kohler should be the number 3 in the rotation, while there will be a battle for the remaining spots amongst many worthy candidates. The outfield remains exciting with the returns of Christian Yelich and Marcell Ozuna. 42-year-old future Hall of Famer Ichiro Suzuki will return for another season and is just 65 hits away from reaching 3,000 for his career. Justin Bour will be looking to improve on last year's breakout season, and catcher JT Realmuto looks to improve his offensive and defensive output. The Marlins changed their coaching staff, hiring manager Don Mattingly after he left the Dodgers. Mattingly added legendary slugger Barry Bonds as the hitting coach, which will be a story to keep an eye on this season. I think the Marlins are a team that could surprise people this season, but I think they will fall short of the playoffs. Perhaps they are a year or two away from real contention, but this will be a season that should indicate that if that expectation is a reality. The New York Mets are bringing back pretty much the same team that brought them to the World Series in 2015. The starting pitching staff is the same, and the relief corps is there. They added Asdrubal Cabrera and traded for Neil Walker to fill the departure of Daniel Murphy. They were fortunate enough to re-sign Yoenis Cespedes and will have him for an entire season. They should be the favorites to win this division, but now they are competing with the rejuvenated Washington Nationals squad that will be ready to get back to the top of the division. The Mets have a good shot at gaining a wild card spot if they can't win the division, and can be dangerous in a one-game playoff no matter who the starting pitcher would be. They are a big reason why this division will be a fun one to watch this year, despite the rebuilding of 2 of their division counterparts. Speaking of the rebuild, the Atlanta Braves are still another season away from moving out of Turner Field to their 3rd home in 20 years out in the suburbs. They are gearing up for this by adding youth to their roster. They traded away starting pitcher Shelby Miller to the Arizona Diamondbacks and made a killing receiving last year's number 1 draft pick Dansby Swanson, up-and-coming Major League-ready outfielder Ender Enciarte, and pitching prospect Aaron Blair. They added Tyler Flowers at catcher to take the starting role from aging veteran A.J. Pierzynski. Julio Teheran remains in the starting rotation and will be the ace of a staff that is in need of depth. Teheran and first baseman Freddie Freeman are the centerpieces in a team that is looking to get back to yearly playoff appearances. They are still quite a ways away, but they should be able to turn heads this year with the unveiling of rookie talent that will be fun to watch for years to come. The Philadelphia Phillies are in the process of a complete rebuild. They replaced general manager Ruben Amaro Jr. with Matt Klentak last October. Interim manager Pete Mackinnon was given a contract and a chance to develop a team full of young talent. Last season, they traded ace pitcher Cole Hamels to the Texas Rangers. Carlos Ruiz and Ryan Howard are the only 2 players remaining from their World Series teams from 2008 and 2009. They have been trying to shop Ryan Howard, but haven't found a suitor. The positives for the Phillies are that they are developing a core of young talent. They have prospects in J.P. Crawford and Nick Williams that may be ready to appear at the major league level this season, and Aaron Nola will compete to be the opening day starter after making his debut last season. The team added veteran pitchers Jeremy Hellickson and Charlie Morton and now have outfield depth off the bench with Peter Borges. The Phillies will compete with the Braves for the worst record in the division, but with nothing to lose and plenty of youngsters eager for a shot at the big time, they will give headaches to teams trying to contend in the East Division and the rest of the National League. Next week, I'll give you my preview of the American League West, and stay tuned for opening weekend where I will make my 2016 season predictions. Tidbits before I wrap up this week's show. The story of 16-year-old Cuban prospect Lazaro Armenteros took an odd turn this week when his agent Charles Hairston dropped his client after receiving death threats. The Armenteros family has a different side of the story and have now hired Octagon to represent the young phenom who defected from Cuba last year. Sad news to report that Chicago White Sox co-owner Eddie Einhorn passed away this week after complications from a stroke. Einhorn was an instrumental figure in sports broadcasting and helped bring the NCAA March Madness tournament into the national spotlight. The White Sox will wear a patch to commemorate him. Einhorn was 80 years old. The Frisco Rough Riders, the AA affiliate of the Texas Rangers, will unveil a lazy river at Dr. Pepper Park this June for fans to enjoy the game while floating on a raft beyond the right field wall. And for $39, you can enjoy the Thursday night pool party, which features access to the lazy river, along with all-you-can-eat peanuts, hot dogs, brats, chips, and Dr. Pepper products. Where do I sign up? That will do it for this week's edition of Baseball Weekend Journal. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Baseball Weekend, or email the show baseballwj@gmail.com. For the Baseball Weekend Journal, I'm Paul Shivari, and we'll see you next weekend.